Hello everyone. Today's poem is Zheng Wei, a Zheng Wind from the Book of Songs. The title Zhen Wei refers to the two major rivers in the Zheng state, especially these two rivers joined together at the city of the Zheng capital, the Xinzheng city. So just like the map here, the city was enclosed by the two rivers, the Zhen River and the Wei River. This poem described a very vivid scenario, events, a festival in the mid-spring period. And today, we still have sort of the mid-spring festivals, the Qingming festivals, as well as the 上巳节, the third month of the third day of the third month, 3月3. So, of course, the third day of the third month refers to the lunar calendar. So normally, the scenario, the situation described in this poem is believed to be the very origin of the modern Qingming festival, as well as the third day of the third month, 3月3. So during this period or this festival, there's two things happens. First thing first, people go to the suburb, to the cemetery, to sweep the tomb of their ancestors, as well as to offer some sacrifice, the wine, the carne, the fruits whatsoever. And after that sacrifice and condolence to their ancestors, then the young girl and young boy, they went to the wild, just like dating, and very likely and most probably there will have some affairs happened or started. Well, I believe not this poem, but a lot of the wind poems in the Book of Songs is about this festival, this event. Go to the cemetery, as well as have a sort of the outing. Like the first poem in the Book of Songs, Guanju. So Guanju actually describes two things. The untold story of go to the cemetery to have some sacrifice to pay their condolence to their ancestors. But so normally the poem Guanju was explained as a love poem, but actually that was not the focal point. The focal point is still the ancestor worship. So when we read the first poem, Guanju, as well as maybe the last poem in the Book of Songs, because we know very well the Zheng Wind, as well as the Qin Wind, was the last written poems in the Book of Songs, and I believe this poem was written after Zheng Mugong, so it's sometime after 600 BC. While the Guanju, the first poem in Book of Songs, Guanju was roughly written sometime around 1000 years BC. So there's some roughly 400 years gap between Guanju and this poem, Zhen Wind. And by comparing Guanju and this poem, we can got some idea and got some feeling, got some sense how the how the society, how the custom, how the local customs change after those several hundred years. The change and the differences are quite subtle and tentative, so you should pay extremely attention to those small pinpoint to find out the differences between Guanju and this poem, Zhen Wind. Well, the guideline actually is given by Confucius already, because Confucius praised Guanju so much, because Guanju is 悦而不淫，哀而不伤. So what does it mean? It means it shows some of the happiness as well as some of the joy, very positive, right? But it's not so excessive. And 哀而不伤, it also shows their sadness, but not so hurting. So it's a quite subtle balance between happy and sad, because in this day, in this event, it's about the condolence to the ancestors, as well as the dating between young boy and young girls. So one is something about death, and the other hand is something about new life, right? The young girl and the young boy, they have some affairs, right? They have new babies, or they managed to get married through these events, and then they have new babies. It's also about new life, right? So when we read this poem, first thing first, we should pay extremely attention how their feelings toward their ancestors. And second, let's see how the young boy and young girl they make acquaintance. They use this opportunity to know each other, or even have a affair, have an intercourse. Okay, let's have a quick review of this poem. 真与伪，方涣涣兮. The Zhen River and the Wei River, it's flooding in the springtime. So that's the meaning in the surface. So there is an item in the Zhou Yi about Huan. So let's see what does Huan means in Zhou Yi. So first thing first, it means 风行水上. In the springtime, the spring wind blows over the river surface. So it's a quite lovely, it's a quite refreshing atmosphere, right? And the second meaning is 先王以享于地，于地立庙. So they pay their sacrifice to their ancestors, and the new king was erected in the ancestor temple. So that's quite something quite compliant to this festival, right? Pay condolence to the ancestors, as well as to arouse or to make the new life, right? The dating between the young boy and the young girl, right? To have them to make new life. So the first sentence, quite genius. It not only shows us the the prosperous, the refreshing atmosphere in the spring, but it also connect the springtime to their ancestors as to their new kings or the new state lord. Okay, let's see what's really happened or what exactly it was. The second sentence, 士与女方秉兰兮. The citizens and the majority of people, they all hold the flower of lan, the orchid flower. So the orchid flower, even till today, was believed as the national flower, the flower of the king. And that believing starts from a story in the Zheng state, and very likely that story has a strong association with this poem. Before the Zheng Gong's mother got pregnancy, she had a dream that her ancestors sent her an orchid flower in her dream and told him the orchid flower is your son, and this son would be a king, the next state lord of Zheng state. Thus, the new baby was named as Zilan, and later he became the Zheng state lord, who was so called as Zheng Gong. This state lord, is very, very important in the long history of the Zheng state, because in the first part of the Zheng state history, the ruling, the power is still with the state lord, and after the Zheng Gong, the power, the political power within the state was not with the state lord anymore. It's with the 7 major families, which was so called as Qi Mu, the 7 families of the from the Zheng Gong, which means all the 7 families is from Zheng Gong, is the son of Zheng Gong. So in other means, Zheng Gong actually ruled the Zheng state afterwards, in the long run, with his 7 sons. So with this story, the second pair of sentences looks quite different, right? 士与女方秉兰兮. The citizens, all the girls, they all hold an orchid flower in their hand in the condolence to Zheng Gong, right? Because Zheng Gong, his name is Zilan, the son of orchid. And the character Fang means the different parts in the Zheng state. So Fang秉蕑兮means the people from all the corners of the Zheng state. They come to this place, the cemetery of the Zheng Gong, to pay their condolence, to pay their sacrifice to Zheng Gong, and they all hold an orchid flower in their hand. So on the girl said, 女曰观乎. The girl said, let's have a look. So 观 is also a item, a piece of item in Zhou as well. Let's see. 观 has two meanings. First thing first, the wind blows on the land. So 涣, the first sentence, 方涣涣兮, 涣 means the wind blows on the river surface, and 观 means the wind blows on the land. And it has a second meaning. The ancestor state lord, the ancestor king, he pay a visit to the countryside, 先王以醒方. So that's sort of the tourism in today's view, right? That's a tour. So the third pair of sentence, 女曰观乎, the girl said, let's go around, have the tour. It's quite clear they want to have some of the leisurement. They have some of the entertainment, outing, right? This is the second part of this event, of this festival, Qingming festival. And then the citizens, 士曰既且, the citizens said, after our visit to our ancestors. So here, it's quite clear they are still on the way to the cemetery or to their ancestors' temple. And the girl is so eager to have the date with the boy, or he wants to have some entertainment rather to go to the cemetery, rather to go to the ancestors' temple. But the boy, the citizens, is still stay with his bottom line. Let's finish the sacrifice. Let's finish the ceremony to our ancestors first. 举往观乎. So let's go to the cemetery and let's have the observation, have the tour. So even the citizen, even the boy is not totally focused on his ancestors, on the state lord, Zheng Mugong, because he take the ceremony as part of the entertainment, as part of the tourism, right? 举往观乎. Let's go to the cemetery, go to the ancestor temple, and we can start our 观 observation. Today means observation, but in the Shi Jing's time, it has a strong metaphor or hint of to go to the different countryside to have a visit. So basically, it's a entertainment in that time. Next sentence, 尾之外，巽须举乐. So outside of the Wei River, the music played for the ceremony, for the ancestors, is still faithful and with some of the condolence. So this refers to the ceremony was still going on according to the code of conduct, and it sounds like quite formal, right? Just imagine this event is a bunch of people, the peoples in the town, people in the suburb, from all the suburbs in the four directions, they all come to the ancestor temple or the cemetery. They hold this event. So there's a bunch of people, these officers who are responsible for this ceremony. They play the music, they do the rituals, still in its formal ways. Well, but the majority is quite different. Let's see the next sentence. 为士与女依其相谑，赠之以芍药. Well, those majorities and the girls, they just kidding each other, and they are sending the flower of 芍药 to each other. The flower 芍药 in those times is a metaphor, or a hint by its sound. 芍, or equivalent, or is the borrowed character of 酌, which means to drink, to have a toast. Is a part of the to make agreement, right? And 药 has the same sound of 约, which means agreement. So 芍药 by its sound has a metaphor to make agreement, to have a date, right? So the last sentence reveals us the local customs has changed so much. The rituals, the ceremonies was holding according the code of conduct, and it sounds quite formal. But the people, the majority of the participants, the citizens and the young girls, they just use this occasion to kidding each other, to make joke with each other, and they have a date. Okay, let's go to the second paragraph. 真鱼尾，流其清矣. So the Zhen River and the Wei River, it flows so crystal clear. The river is crystal clear. Well, please notice the character Liu is a very, very special character. If you look at the original form, we can see that Liu is something to associate with wine, and very likely it's one of the rituals to use the wine to pour down to the earth, or pour down to a bronze vessel, which resembles to use the wine to as a sacrifice to the earth, the god of the earth, or to their ancestors, because the god of the earth is, of course, in the earth, as their ancestors was also buried in the earth. So use the wine to pour down to the soil is one of the rituals. 流其清矣 here is a metaphor that the crystal clear Wei River and the Zhen River is just like the wine for their ancestors, for the Zheng state. The next sentence make it more clearly, right? 士与女因其盈矣. So this is a real sense. The majority public, everybody, they are pouring their wines into the vessel, and the wine finally overflowed the vessels. 因其盈矣. Yin means very, very much. Ying means overflow. So this ritual is the metaphor, or it means the vessel is just like their ancestors. So then they pour in the wine into the vessel, resembles the sacrifice was taken, the wine was taken by their ancestors. So the wine overflowed the vessels, which means they are very, very faithful to their ancestors still. But that don't last very much. So the following four sentences is basically repeating, right? 女曰观乎，士曰既且. The girl said, let's have a tour outside, and the citizens, the young boy said, let's finish this ritual, this ceremony first. And then you just take 举往观乎. Let's go to the cemetery and have a rest, have a tour. We can take this ritual, this ceremony as a tour as well, right? 有尾之外，巽戌举月. So outside of the Wei River, the music for the ancestors sounds faithful and appropriate sadness, while the majority of the people, the boys and the girls, they just kidding each other at these circumstances, and they are sending the flower of shaoyao to each other to make a date. So basically, the following 4 sentences is repeating. So we have finished the whole poem. So basically, the whole poem is talking about the ceremony, not the touring, the outings, right? So it's still not go to that far. They're still in the cemetery or in the ancestor temple. But we can feel the atmosphere of the entertainment as well as the outings. So which means even their physical body was still with their ancestors, but their heart was not here. And this actually reflected at the time being the ancestor worship is not valued anymore. But the ritual is still there, right? And the people just use this opportunity to make the dating. So when we think it twice, the words from the Confucius, 悦而不淫，哀而不伤. So how does you feel about this poem, Zheng Wei? Does this poem comply to the standard that Confucius put up? So the ancient Chinese believed that the personal characteristics, their feelings, was mostly revealed in the rituals to their ancestors. So this is the best place, this is the best time to find out a person, his characteristics, and also his social values. That's also the main reason why there is so many. The majority of the poems in the Wind poems is about ancestor worship, either the ancestor temple or the cemetery or the funeral. Okay, that's for today. Bye bye.